transport within the city. The objective of the KCCA Public Transport Management Bill is to provide for regulation of a transport, including taxis or matatus, coasters, special hires, and boda-bodas, providing for the establishment of infrastructure, management, and supervision of the public transport sector. Of the different public transport operations, boda-bodas have been a subject of a debate as different forces in government and the private sector critique the industry amid seemingly an ongoing brawl between the Ministry of Kampala and the Office of the Resident Commissioner, or RCC, on one side, and the political leadership led by the Lord Mayor Elias Lukwago on the other. This morning, we are speaking to the Lord Mayor's Lieutenant. Deputy Lord Mayor Doreen Nyanjura is joining us. A very warm welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure being here.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, there's that conversation you're having before we come on air.
She's the perfect person.
Perfect person.
Yeah, because experience,
right.
You know, between you and me, she has good experience.
Okay.
Okay.
Shoot.
Yeah. So we were having a debate earlier on about breastfeeding mothers, especially in the workplace. They are given currently 3 months old leave, but you do have UN that has come out, even World Health Organization that has come out to recommend that they now be given an extension leave of up to 6 months to just focus on breastfeeding. What has been your breastfeeding experience with your children?
Well, I have a daughter. I don't have children, and I think my daughter really is among those that has gone through a lot. I think she has not enjoyed the parenthood or the motherhood that she deserves. Because fast forward, when I got pregnant, I was arrested 4 times while pregnant with her.
Wow.
So I think she also started her activism when she was in
the stomach.
When she was in my womb, yes. And apparently, when I gave birth, I remember people wondering when I got pregnant. So it was, well, she has gone through that. And I should say that I didn't have time. And of course, you talk about what should be done, the 6 months. Of course, if you look at Uganda specifically, you'll find that mothers actually do not even have the luxury of getting the 3 months that you're talking about. Many of them, after giving birth, the following day, you lose your job. And I think we have seen this, and it has been reoccurring. Actually, and this form of injustices against women should really be challenged. You'll go for employment, and someone says if you're a woman, you're not welcome, because they'll automatically know eventually you're going to get pregnant and you'll have to stay away from work.
I've seen cases of women actually leaving the workplace to go and give birth because of that whole pressure of, unless I'm walking to the hospital, I'm not leaving the desk. And doesn't that affect the health of women actually?
Of course it does affect the health of women. And of course the 3 months, first of all, like you have ably stated, the 3 months are not enough. I can tell you, even when before a child maybe reaches 6 years, you know, that is when she can maybe ably tell you, Mom, when you left me with a maid, this happened. It is very risky for us to leave our children in the hands of, I would say, strangers, you know, because you eventually get to discover a lot. But I've always told women, the rights that we enjoy, all the rights that we enjoy as women, these rights we have had to fight for. When it comes to voting, when it comes to education, when it comes to employment, even to use contraceptives, you know, we have had to fight. People have had to first be arrested for us to enjoy these rights. So if this is a proposal from UN, women, we have to continue pushing for this, and we have to support it, because women deserve better. Their babies, their children also deserve better. But that will not come on a silver platter.
All right, we're glad to amplify that particular debate. Allow me transition into the just concluded sorority by-election, where you were a very visible actor, especially in the run-up to the polls on was it the other day? When was the poll held?
Last week on Thursday.
Last week on Thursday. It had escaped. It had escaped me, but there you were. What was the experience like? We saw on social media Anne Adeke Ebaju, well, some say waxing lyrical about it, but we also saw a video where she posted apparently security forces storming her home. What was the experience, pretty quickly, before we transition into
first and foremost, it is wrong for us to assume that there was an election in Soroti. Because when you look at the laws, we all know how an election is supposed to look like. So for me, that was not an election. What happened in Soweto was a military operation, specifically against those that were not supporting the anointed and appointed candidate of the regime, that is Ariko. So we didn't have an election. And well, I think really it was terrible. It was bad. You know, people kept saying, the campaign has been so peaceful. And I kept telling them, I know this regime. I know these people. There is something that they are planning for us. And indeed, that came to pass. On our final rally, some of our cars were deflated. My car was deflated and was actually, I had to jump on a boda to get to the final destination. On Wednesday night, in the evening, we came to know that the Prime Minister, and by the way, when I'm talking about the Prime Minister, I speak with a lot of pain, given that I'm an activist for women and a gender scholar, and I love seeing women in power. But for a whole Prime Minister to reduce herself, you know, to the level of distributing money, bribing mothers of this nation with 5,000, it's really very absurd. So when we eventually got to Lions Club, where the Prime Minister was bribing voters from, she escaped, she ran with the women that she was bribing, jumped into a pickup and disappeared. We are talking about the Prime Minister of this country. Really, that was so absurd, and it was very, very unfortunate. I think as a country, we deserve better. You know, I've told people that we are told, yes, they have appointed a cabinet of fishermen and fisherwomen, but even then, sometimes you expect them to behave better. And of course, the operation started in the night. The military broke into the home of the Honorable Adeke Ann. That was more like our coordinating center, where we are deploying our agents from. And yeah, you know, it was dark, and everyone was pepper sprayed. There was military, and our president and other people that were there were all picked, transported in a lorry, like Matoke, taken to Dokolo, others were taken to Bukedia, and others were taken to Moroto. Now, that operation, when it started, you know, you'd see someone posting, they have come for me. Then they would move to another hotel. So all of us were there on standby. You know, you're like, maybe I'm next. So the operation went on like that. And I think officially that operation of break-ins ended at 5 a.m. Now, most of our agents were arrested.
Okay.
And we didn't know where exactly to start from. Maybe to cut the story short, about my arrest specifically. When I got to Kengere, that is the ward that I was managing, we found a lot of things that were irregular. We found policemen on polling stations with bags, and we all know, according to electoral laws, that is not accepted.
That's not acceptable.
We went into 2 places where we arrested one councillor called Ramadan Bogere, who was distributing money, and one media also took off. And in that process, the video that you saw, I had gone to talk to an NRM MP who was coordinating the bribery. So as I was standing there, I had someone commanding, arrest her, don't negotiate. And then I said, why are you arresting me? This is the MP who is giving out money. They said, don't negotiate, arrest her. And I was taken to Choga polling station. Now, what is most annoying?
Very quickly.
I was arrested with, I was charged with bribery. I was charged with an account of someone, and you know, the person who committed that was left to go free. Our party leaders were also charged with bribery and campaigning beyond time. We are talking about people, some of them, most of them were picked from their rooms. How exactly were they campaigning beyond time? And this article that has been voted, all through the campaigns, even when he was coming to the polling station, he was heavily guarded. You know, imagine you're going to represent your people, but you're being heavily guarded by the military, being guarded against the people that you're going to be representing. So we know that he's an imposter, and the people of Soweto have not yet given up the fight.
All right. That's interesting.
Yeah, I've spoken about the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister and you don't seem to be in good terms, and by you I mean KCCA in capacity. Most recently we've had her come out to actually speak about the boda-boda issue, streamlining that is happening. One, of course, we know that there's no law under which this whole boda-boda streamlining operation is under. We are still questioning this money that they are paying, to whom is it going, and then the Prime Minister comes out to tell us that as far as this streamlining procedure operation is concerned, they are only wanting 7,000 within the capital city, and so the intention is to actually just clear out the city. Isn't the Prime Minister doing the job of Kampala City Council Authority?
All right.
Well, the Prime Minister is all over the place, really. And I've had even some of her colleagues in his office complain, that she's all over. She's even doing what she's not supposed to do. Definitely that is not the mandate of the Prime Minister, because we are legislators in Kampala, and we are supposed to run and legislate on behalf of Kampala. We are supposed to come up with policies. But of course, for me, that does not surprise me. We are operating in a country that does not respect institutions, where almost all institutions are a dead, that even when you go to court, the magistrate will not decide on anything, or the judge. He or she has to first consult the powers that be, When you come to KCCA, we have the ministers, we have the technical team led by the executive director. You'll sit in a room and agree on how you're going to move forward. But when they go to State House and the president tells them something different, the following day you'll hear them speaking a different language. And maybe to just make it clear, as political leaders, we are not against having a smart city. We do not only love Kampala, we treasure Kampala. What we are against is trying to suffocate the voiceless. What we are against is the total disregard of the law. What we are against is doing things really without our input. Because if we are to talk about the issue of streamlining boda-bodas, this is not something that has started now. This is something that has been on since 2006, when we still had KCC. And I remember then the person who stopped that operation was the president. He issued a presidential directive. After that, the leadership
that was in the run-up to the 2006 election.
Exactly. And he usually does that. When you're going for elections, he will tell you, let people work. Let the vendors be on the streets because he's looking for votes. Let those in markets stop paying money. So really it is very unfortunate. And we are against injustice. And I can tell whoever is watching NTV this morning that as long as I am still the Deputy Lord Mayor, and as long as Arias Lukwago is the Lord Mayor of Kampala, we are not going to do things that are outside the law.
Okay, you have
the Lord Mayor calls himself the rule of law general. I'm the second in command.
So what plan does the office of the Lord Mayor have in actually streamlining transport, not just boda-bodas but also public transport generally? What's the plan that is on
now?
Table
You
right
talked
now?
about the KCCA public transport ordinance, and this has been in the pipeline for some time. And our efforts to have the ordinance in place, oftentimes our efforts have been failed by the technical team, by the ministers, simply because at times they have interest. So for them to come out, and the past leaders, by the way, have agreed with us that you cannot start you cannot start doing registration, you cannot start extorting money from people without any legal backing. So when did that change? And we have been asking questions, because currently we have around 400,000 boda-boda riders in Kampala.
400,000.
Yes. That is according to the reports released.
So
by
they want to
police,
put out. The plan is to put out 330,000 out of the city.
Exactly. So, and they are saying they need 7,000. out of the 400,000 plus that we're talking about. So the question is, what mechanisms are they going to use to select the 7,000 boda-boda raiders? And we have asked that question, we have not got answers. Are they going to look at crime preventers? Are they going to look at NRM cadres? What mechanism are they going to use to select the 7,000 boda-bodas? And up to now, no one has answered that question.
Allow me to interject at that point, because this seems to be a little bit of a back and forth. The political leadership within Kampala should not be seen to be questioning and critiquing just about any plan that comes out from the government. Do you have alternative policy blueprints that, for example, if government is introducing one that is controversial or doesn't work, you have one that actually can help the government improve on what it has, or even completely throw what it has down and adapt what you have? What blueprints do you have for the public transport sector infrastructure within Kampala as the political leadership?
You see, one, I've told you we are working on the ordinance, but also for a very long time we've also been talking about rapid transport in Kampala. Now, for us to have all these things that we are talking about, we definitely need funding and support from government. That has not been treated as a priority. And like I already stated in my preamble, we are not against having an organized city. What we are against is the discrimination and the injustices that are being subjected to these boda-boda raiders, the downtrodden, that the ministers, the RCCs usually find it easy for them to go for the dregs of society. Our mothers on the streets who have 10,000 as their capital to hawk mangoes, yellow bananas, our boda-boda raiders, but they will not show up when we are talking about buildings
in the wetlands
that are killing the buildings that are killing residents of Kampala. You will never see the RCC, you will never see the minister. When we are talking about buildings in the wetland, they will never show up. You get it? So are they really serving the interests of the people of Kampala? Because for me, before you go for this woman carrying a kid on her back, trying to fend for that kid, and you start battering her, what are you doing for the likes of Ham who have buildings in the middle of the road? That even when we say as political leaders, these buildings must go down, you're protecting them. And this excuse of saying that they want to reduce congestion, I really find that very wanting. Because if we are talking about congestion, what causes congestion in Kampala? We are talking about parliament there.
Just a moment.
How many MPs are there? All of them have cars. We are talking about ministries that are all over the place. They are also talking about jam. Who causes jam? You will find it is the ministers who are driving one way. They are not respecting anyone.
Last night, on the road, there were 10 siren cars.
Exactly.
Government number plates, 10. And I'm thinking, but we're all going back home.
Exactly.
There's no duty you're going to perform.
Exactly.
So why are you causing havoc for them?
They need to get home safe so they can do work tomorrow.
Anyway, Doreen, I believe there was a meeting yesterday to harmonize this whole boda-boda streamlining. What were the outcomes of that, Doreen?
Well, the meeting, first of all, as the political leaders, we wanted to distance ourselves from the illegal operations that are currently happening. We wanted to distance ourselves from people who are extorting money from boda-boda raiders that are struggling to earn a living. Because you cannot tell a boda-boda raider to pay 65,000 and you are asking them, under what law is this money being collected?
And
where is that money going? You know? And we have not been provided with answers.
I've heard of an association of boda-boda owners and their operators, and apparently before it became streamlined in terms of a set target, most of these operators do remit up to 70,000 Uganda shillings on a weekly to some of the owners. Now, I do not know whether the owners complained that either the operators were not remitting this money to warrant the fact that a set figure must be put at 65 for which the operator to hand to the owner. How is this? Just take us through what it is. I know you don't like it.
The money being taken to
The 65,000 Uganda shillings
65,000
required from boda-bodas. Apparently, it is supposed to be going to the owners. They have an association that has come up.
Well, that is something that I'm really learning from you.
Yeah, because
as far as I'm concerned, that money is not supposed to go to the owners. We are being told that that money is meant to facilitate the medical examination of the boda-boda
Let me tell you,
riders.
I have asked two
Wow.
boda-boda men
65,000.
have registered for this,
Yeah.
and I asked them if they actually went through the medical exam, and they said there was no medical exam.
Yes, they said they wanted to check their heads. You get it? So, and for me, I'm wondering. That is what we are being told.
so if there is this deadlock,
So the money is not for the
between the
owners.
political leadership,
The money is going to the RSCCs and the ministers. For me, as far as I'm concerned, that is what I know.
So why is
The
that?
ideal should have been it comes to
Yeah.
KCCA.
Yes.
KCCA are the ones in control of the city, especially in terms of public transport. Then you use that money to come up with the ordinance, put it
No,
into
no, no,
action,
no.
and you know.
The money is not supposed to come to KCCA. The money is not supposed to be collected.
That's the
First and
Yes,
foremost,
first and
yeah.
foremost, because under what law is this money being collected? That is what we are challenging. So no one is supposed to pay money until we have an ordinance in place.
Yeah, because,
and it
for
is
example,
not
what
the
service
minister
are they paying for?
who sits in his or her office and then says you're going to start paying 65,000. That is the responsibility of council. The minister does not sleep, and then when he wakes up, he says, now you people, you're going to pay 65,000. So that is irregular, and we have distanced ourselves from that. And also a select committee was put in place to investigate.
Allow me ask you this question. You have traveled widely, I believe, across the African continent, but also across the globe. And you should have been benchmarking some of the public transport sector blueprints that some of these cities, the vibrant cities, so to speak, use. As political leaders, do we have, and I will keep insisting on this, before you question what government is bringing on board, are there blueprints that you have provided? Or you simply ensure yours is to discuss and pass these ordinances and then ask for funds to implement these things? Have you provided government with blueprints on a smart city, how we can achieve it, what infrastructure can be rolled out, so that the technocrats have an option to also look at, away from their plan of the 65,000, especially for boda-bodas?
Now, of course, as legislators, we provide policies. And like I already stated, we also want a city that indeed reflects of the 21st century.
Okay.
And we have on several accounts given alternatives. For example, when you look at Kampala, Kampala has 86 markets. Out of these 86 markets,
Wow.
only 16 are owned by government. And as an alternative, actually for a very long time, we have been telling central government that, look, we need more markets to be constructed to accommodate the increasing number of the urban poor, those that are unemployed. And the song has been the same. There's no money. So have I not provided an alternative? You're saying people should go off the streets, but where you're sending them, there's no space. And we are saying as policymakers, can government make sure that more markets are constructed? We also know that in Kampala, only 56% of the garbage generated is collected. And we have suggested an alternative. And we are saying, look, we cannot have to have a city that is choking on garbage. Can we at least have, we have 99 parishes, can we at least have 99 garbage trucks in Kampala to make sure that each parish has and the garbage is collected? You know, and the technical team will tell you that we are supposed to collect garbage free of charge in slums. But you ask them, 60% of Kampala almost is in slums. Which slums are you talking about exactly? So we have been giving alternatives, but the answers you have been getting from government, central government, have been the same. These are unfunded priorities.
All right.
And about the boda-boda operations, we definitely have an ordinance which I've been talking about. Who is going to operate from where, what colors they are going to put on. So we have these things in place, and we have taken our time to consult even the boda-boda raiders, you know. But we shall not allow people to just come and say without any law, without even consulting boda-boda raiders, without consulting us, and they do things the way they are doing them. That one we shall challenge.
All right, Madam Deputy Lord Mayor, we shall halt it briefly here so we can go for a short break, but the discussion continues. What I can tell you right now is that plans are underway. Well, it's already rolling out, a dialogue by the Daily Monitor as the newspaper that tells the truth celebrates 30 years. When we come from the break, we shall be touching a little bit on that, and what the Deputy Lord Mayor thinks of the legacy, but also events at Makerere University. Do stay with us. The hashtag on Twitter is Morning at NTV.
You're watching Morning at NTV.